The main opposition, People's Democratic Party, PDP, will be putting things together as the kick-off date for the party's campaign approaches. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has expressed confidence that his party stands a good chance of winning the 2023 presidential election. However, with internal crisis within the party still lingering, there are questions being raised if this will affect the momentum of the party's campaign as the election draws closer. Joining us on the show this morning as we discuss the People's Democratic Party's preparations ahead of the campaign kickoff on October 10 is Daniel Bwala, spokesperson for the Atiku Abubakar presidential campaign. Daniel Bwala, welcome to the morning show. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abati and Mr. Ruben. Thank you for having me.
Okay, very quickly. This weekend matter looks like it's not going to go away. We're being told that Senator Adolphus Wabara, having led a team to Port Harcourt to meet with him, that team saying, oh, we'll go back to Abuja. We have fresh information. So some newspapers today are speculating that Senator Iyachi is going to be asked to step down. You were quoted last month saying that, look, nobody should worry about the wicked problem. It's something that will blow away. This is something that will blow away, considering the fact that a supporter of Senator Ayu and also the candidate, Atiku Abubakar, was just targeted yesterday by the State House of Assembly. That's Celestine Omehia, who has been told that he must not go about again calling himself a former governor, and that he's no longer entitled to privileges, and that he must return whatever privileges he has enjoyed. So the party looks like it remains in turmoil. Do you have a different opinion?
Well, thank you, Dr. Abati and Mr. Rufai Oseni. Permit me, I will answer the question, but permit me to state for the records that the Nigerian Press, and that comprises of both the electronics and the print media, have set the agenda for us in the past 2-3 weeks in their various interventions that once the campaign starts, political parties should focus on issues that they threw open or that they want to canvass in the election and not bother on mundane or things that are not associated with the issues. Now, we decided to fully comply with the Nigerian Press because they hold the public to account, they hold public officers or political office aspirants to account on behalf of the people. And if we are to go by the agenda set by the Nigerian Press, then it is safe to say that APC has moved on and the conversation with us should be about our agenda for the Nigerian people rather than the issues associated with party affairs. But in any case, if the press is inclined to that, I would only say that Daniel Bwala is a spokesman for the campaign. The party has publicity secretary that would deal with party affairs. As far as I know, as a party, we have had NWC meeting where resolutions in preparation for the elections were passed. We have had NEC meeting where those resolutions were ratified. We have had NEC resolution passing a vote of confidence on NWC. And since then, we have released our campaign council. We have inaugurated them. We have participated in the signing of the peace pact. We have, in fact, commenced our campaign, but the official one starts on Monday. We'll be happy to engage with the Nigerian people on matters that are ahead of us. We've gone past the issue of whether somebody is aggrieved in the party or not. But if the press hard on that, I will only seek for their permission to refer the responses in that regard to the publicity secretary of the party, sir.
But you cannot deny this, Mr. Bwala, that this is affecting your campaign to a large extent. And that's why you're still having meetings here and there. Have you or have you not moved on without Mr. Wiki? That's the question. Have you or have you not moved on without Wiki? With the greatest respect, Mr. Rufai, we have moved on with our campaign. That is why we had without Mr.
last
Wiki,
Tuesday,
right? Without Mr. Wiki.
Two Tuesdays that passed, we had engagement in Enugu, where we engaged with the Southeast stakeholders. we had massive reception and welcome. And we got the assurances of the people from the Southeast that they are supporting the party. Then this last Wednesday, we had stakeholder in the Northeast, and the media covered the kind of participation of people from the Northeast. We have moved on. We have commenced campaign. So it is to me, it will be a little bit strange if we are forced to believe that we have not moved on. Are we engaging with Wike? Yes, sir. We are, because as a political party, nothing, you don't assume that everything is over until it is actually over. And those people who are tasked with the responsibility of engaging him, like the Board of Trustees, are doing so. And from when they first were assigned with that role to today, there is marked progress. His last public outing was the press meeting he has gathered, he granted to the wall. Since then, there is no official meeting by Mr. Wike that suggested that he is still angry. Rather, what we have seen is that the candidate of the party had visited him last week. We have seen that the Board of Trustees visited him sometime either last week or so. We have also seen that he went to Enugu to engage with his friends. And we have also seen that appreciable progress is made in that regard. As far as I know and as far as I'm concerned, as far as the campaign is concerned, we've moved on. And as far as party reconciliation is concerned, it is ongoing. And I say that because APC is the one should be bothered with this type of questions, but they get the pass from the press. Rather than party affairs that bog them, which is about 7 or 8, that is quite existential to their process. But each time they come, they are interrogated on their agenda and manifesto. But when we come, rather than being engaged on the manifesto and agenda, we are being engaged about somebody in our party that you, the members of the press, said is stopping us from making progress. With the greatest respect, sir.
Okay, Daniel Bwala, we've been told that the PDP has now set October 10 as a formal launch of the campaign, although we've seen activities here and there, the most recent being in Bauchi and also in Yola and all of that. What are the plans? What is the strategy? What should we expect?
Right. So we have the kickoff of the campaign in Akwa Ibom. The rationale behind it is because Akwa Ibom is in the south-south. We have had stakeholder engagement with the southeast. We have drawn their support. We have with the northeast. So we intend to commence from the south-south with Akwa Ibom. The stakeholders in the south-south are overwhelmingly supporting and preparing for this kickoff. And hopefully the media will cover the kickoff on Monday. And you will see that the South-South are quite in touch, and the South-South are leading. You know, like I always say that the South-South is a Camp David of PDP. South-South has the highest number of PDP governors in Nigeria. South-South has produced the vice presidential candidate of the party, and South-South, which has always been delivering for PDP, is sought to deliver even more. Our message, not just to the people in Akwa Ibom, but generally Nigeria, will be to convince them on what Atiku has as his plan or covenant with the Nigerian people. And our approach is not to be aggressive. Our approach is not to be to convey this feeling of entitlement, or just because the experts have said we are in a commanding position to win, therefore we take it for granted. We are ready to engage with them, get their criticism or their questions, and see how we can sell this message that Nigeria, first of all, is in the doldrum. Nigeria is in problem. And everybody in Nigeria is agreeable to it. How do we get out of the problem? Our message is that the APC-led government has not been able to take us out of the problem. Our message is that when they took over in 2015, it is believed that they would take us further than where we were. But after 7 years, we are worse off than where we were in 2015. So we are coming to Nigerians with a better agenda in our own view. And the experts have adjudged that our plan for the Nigerian people is more realistic, it is down to earth, and it has appreciable measurement. And so this is what is going to guide our engagement, whether in Akwa Ibom or when we go to Katsina or when we go to the rest of Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Bwala, 2 questions. Number 1. The EIU, Economist Intelligence Unit, and everybody, because the stat is out there, and the debt management office are aware of the stat, knows that Nigeria's debt-to-service ratio is the worst in the world at 119%. What would your candidate do about this? And secondly, I'll ask you this question. This is particularly to your candidate. Your candidate disrespected a lot of Nigerians the last time he ran in 2019. When he got to the venue for a presidential debate, and because President Muhammadu Buhari was not there to debate him, he walked away, that he wouldn't get on that debate podium to debate the rest. When you were on the other side, you too cried foul about what he did. But now you are on his side. What would you say about that action? And hope he will debate this time.
I will answer the two questions.
I know. Hope he will debate this time without looking at other people not being there. Because he is accountable to Nigerian people.
Right. So let me stay on the one that is most critical to the Nigerian poor man or to the Nigerian farmer. Everybody is concerned with the idea of debt to service ratio. We believe that the economic policy of this government is incoherent and inconsistent, which is the reason why the economy has assumed a level where the World Bank said it is heading towards superinflation. And superinflation is the total breakdown of the economic structure of a country. And when a country begins to experience that, then the other critical institutions of the government will go down. In fact, you are heading towards a failed state. That is when you are unable to manage the superinflation. Our belief is that APC, their incoherent policy boils on one. For example, the issue of subsidy. This subsidy on petrol or subsidy on fuel is contributing to the 60% of the problem. Why? Because just like it has been analyzed that we are now, all of our earnings are going into servicing of debt, which means that if you look at the revenue that is accruable or accrued from the sale of oil that is going into subsidy, if we're able to take a pragmatic step of going away from the subsidy, we will be able to have enough funds to take care of the capital project, to pay the salaries and overheads, and we'll be able to have enough money to invest in critical areas of infrastructure such as power. We look at the refineries. We look at other aspects, including education. Because even as you look forward, or as you look to the policy where you will see the education to the state where you take care of some, if you have enough funding to fund education, it means education in Nigeria will be favorably disposed to competing with the other counterparts in Africa, and in some cases, they can even compete with institutions abroad. So you say, what are we going to do differently? One, they refuse to remove subsidy. We are going to take the bull by the horn and approach the idea of removal of subsidy. However, it may not be all of it in a day. It might be comprehensive, but it will be broad-based. And instead of subsidizing the rich and the middle class, we will look to subsidizing areas like transportation. We'll subsidize even education, because if you encourage private participation and you have enough private institution, but you have money to subsidize the education, it means the poor man can access money to go to universities that are considered as Ivy League in Nigeria or Ivy League abroad. So this is one. Number two, we also believe that the policy of the government, especially the foreign exchange policy, is inconsistent, which is the reason why a lot of investors are very much afraid of investing in the economy. Dollar ordinarily will find its leg to wherever investment is favorable, to wherever the climate is favorable. For example, I give you an example. In 2013, a China-owned power company came into Nigeria with the intention of investing $10 billion. They set up an office here in Abuja. They stayed for 2 years. Administrative bottleneck and technical issues frustrated them. They went back and we were unable to have $10 billion injected into our economy. I give you an instance of Mambila Power Project. It was $5 billion that was expected to be injected into that project. But yet, administrative bottlenecks, the idea of demands by people in government frustrated the project, and we lost the opportunity of having the $5 billion into our economy. You remember when Richard Branson negotiated, entered partnership with Nigeria, and they flaunted what they called the Air Nigeria, Virgin Nigeria, sorry, not Air Nigeria. You look at the airline at that time, it was very, very efficient, and he was injecting money into the economy. Administrative bottleneck and some of this red tapeism and rent-seeking frustrated the continuation of that project in Nigeria. So what we intend to do differently is to provide a leadership that will be on alert, that will be responsive and responsible, especially in areas where irresponsibility in government is affecting the growth of economy in Nigeria. Leadership is all you need. In the area of power, for example, you know that in power generation, we have a lot of registered power service providers. But administrative bottleneck, government inability to pay their monies is the reason why they are no longer supplying the gas. We have others who have the capacity, they in fact have the investment to bring into this power project, but because they cannot rely on consistency associated with the policy of government, they are unable to put their money. When it comes to public-private partnership or private investment in government, the first thing that occupies their mind is profit. And when that cannot be guaranteed, they will not come. So I am giving you a little bit of what we intend to do differently from what this government is doing, in the hope that in the 5 areas we intend to change Nigeria, we intend to effect change in Nigeria, we will apply those principles and ensure that Nigeria is out of the doldrum and Nigeria becomes a favorably competing country among the Committee of Nations.
My second question on Atiku Abubakar not debating in the last elections because President Buhari was not there. Please, answer that question. Will he debate this time? Will he not disrespect Nigerians like he did the last time? Because a lot of us felt disrespected. And you even commented about it when you were on the other side.
I have never commented. That's why when you started, I was trying to say if you can refresh my memory on that. But the fact that I did not comment does not mean I condone that. Let me apologize on behalf of Atiku Abubakar, although he may have his reasons for leaving. Once there is a call for a debate, and you are judged that the debate is fair, you are to participate. The attitude and conduct of Atiku Abubakar since the commencement of this 2023 campaign, he has been leading in the charge for engagement with Nigerians. That is why he is the first to roll out his plan for the Nigerian people. He has appeared in NBA by himself. He has appeared before Chamber of Commerce, where he was thoroughly interrogated on his economic policy. He was happily receiving the feedback and was attempting to give them the response that is required. He has appeared in a number of television programs and is willing to appear more. And he is disposed to appearing in any debate that is organized, and the debate committee is one that is respected. He is willing. It is the other political parties, especially the governing party, that the presidential candidate will run when it is time for signing. He will dodge when it is time to appear in NBA. Even when the Nigerian press asks for live interview, he looked at the press in the face and said he doesn't owe them any responsibility. He's not going to vote. He's not vying to become the president of the media, but the president of Nigeria. But he's so lucky that matter died down in less than 24 hours. If it was Atiku that said it, 3 weeks down the line, the conversation will still be on. Atiku is ready to engage with Nigerians, Mr. Rufai.
Okay, Daniel Bwala, can we just be very specific? So I'll ask you 2 questions. One is political, the other is legal.
Right.
The political one, apart from the innuendo that you have attempted, what do you think of the fact that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, candidate of the APC, has returned? They may have missed some events. Heavy weather was made out of that. But there were persons who said that, look, your own candidate, the PDP presidential candidate, is half in Nigeria, half in Dubai. And we don't want absentee presidential candidates. Can you give anybody any guarantee that your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, is going to stay around and not be shuttling between Dubai and Nigeria and make this look like this is a campaign that can be run by DHL? That's one. 2, as a lawyer, what do you think? As a lawyer, what do you think of the decision of the House of Assembly in Rivers State to de-recognize Celestine Omehia, which was something that is in the papers? Right. By 12 noon today, we're told that Governor Wike is going to grant his assent to that de-recognition. But, that will be you speaking in your capacity as a lawyer.
Right. So the first one, with respect to, let me start with the Atiku response and the idea that he goes to Dubai anytime he finishes election or that he travels to Dubai more often. After I joined them, I realized for the period he has been away between 2019 to date, he was understudying for his master's in Anglia Ruskin University in Cambridge. And earlier in the year, he was able to successfully complete the program, and he now has masters. And if acquiring education will take a presidential candidate or a presidential candidate who lost election out of Nigeria in order to refresh his memory and ensure that his reasoning is within the cutting edge of the change of times, I think it is laudable. And two, at any material time that Mr. Atiku Abubakar is out of the country, he has never shrouded his journey in secrecy to say that he is there or he is not there. 2 days ago, a spokesman for APC was asked, where is your principal? He said he doesn't know where the principal is. They say, but you are the spokesman. He said, yes. They say, you don't know where he is. You are supposed to speak for him. He said, honestly, I don't know. But what I know is he will come back. Then the next day in the morning, he appeared on your show, and he was also interrogated. They were not straightforward with the Nigerian people. Atiku was straightforward. And at every given time, you call me and say, where is Atiku Abubakar? I will tell you where he is. If I call Atiku Abubakar, he answers. If he's busy, he responds one way or the other. But the candidate, the spokesman for the other party came here, and you asked whether he has spoken with the man. He said, no, it is his son that said Papa is sleeping. That means either there is no confidence in the spokesman himself, or that what they are doing is shrouded in secrecy. And you know that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu came back because the day prior, the national chairman of the party appeared in their meeting in the campaign headquarters. And rather than having negotiated meeting, he read the riot act to them about the supremacy of the party and the decision that the party will take if they don't concede to the idea of harmonizing the list. The Asiwaju had to return home. So this is the reason why he returned. That is as far as that one is concerned. With respect to legal issue, this is where I have a little bit of conundrum, because what I will say now is not from the perspective of a spokesman for the campaign, but my little knowledge of law. It is quite surprising that an official act that is carried out by a public officer who at the time he carried the official act, he carried it out under the belief that he is acting regularly, can in the future be deleted by House of Assembly. The Constitution Section 4 states the powers of the National Assembly is to make law for good, for peace, order, and good government. Any law that does not pass this test, that law can almost always be thrown out by the court, because a law is a bad law if it does not fall within the premise of these three tests. So if Omeha should go to court to challenge that, it is very easy for Omeha to have that overturned. And let me also say, Mr. Abati, if it is possible for House of Assembly to pass a law, either House of Assembly of a state or National Assembly, to pass a law delisting the history of a public officer, it means official act carried out by him will be deemed as null and void. And you know, during the period, Omeha may have signed bills into law. During the period, Omeha may have signed contract. During the period, Omeha may have appointed people. There are certain acts he would have performed. So if you have the capacity to delist him, you cannot approbate and reprobate. You must also invalidate all the official act that he has conducted. So it is not even a legal serious issue that you will say it is 50-50. I mean, any law that is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution, that law to the extent of the inconsistency is null and void. So if Omeha should go to the court, before the case is even mentioned, it will be thrown out.
All right.
Well, however, no, Daniel Bwala, you missed out one point. In 2008, in this particular case, and I will comment on it later, maybe when if any comes, you recall that the Supreme Court nullified the election of Celestine Omeya, who served for 6 months, right? So if, the Supreme Court nullified his position, and in 2015, the 8th Assembly in Rivers State reinstated its privileges, does that not run against the grain of the principle, over 50 years old, in McFoy versus USC, that nothing can stand on nothing? Do you consider this a case of political vendetta, considering the fact that, Celestine Omeya fell out with Governor Wike, and that this is all part of PDP politics, as I tried to indicate earlier?
Yeah, so I have an opinion as to whether it is political vendetta or not, but I want to stay within the premise of law in order, because reconciliations are taking place. I do not want to prejudice that. But with respect to McFoy's case, and in contradistinction with what happened, you see, the privileges that was restored to him were privileges associated with something like salary allowance. It has nothing to do with official act. And the Supreme Court's decision that invalidated his election never gave a consequential order that he should be delisted from being the governor at that. If you look around Nigeria, you look at Chris Ngige, if this one works, that means places like Anambra and a number of places, even Celeste Omea and Abechi's case, that means official act of public officers who at the material time, you see, there is this thing called the doctrine of regularity. At the time you were functioning as the winner of the election before the decision of the court, there is a doctrine of law that recognizes that you are acting regularly. And unless there is a verdict of God that not only eliminate or invalidate your election, but specifically gave a consequential order that your name should be delisted, I hold the view that the House of Assembly of a state does not have the legal authority or power to delist the public record and official history of a public officer who at the time acted in the belief that he was acting in capacity with the law. That's my view. One beautiful thing about law is that there are many routes to the market. Okay. It is only the court that will say this one is the correct route to the market.
Mr. Bwala, two quick questions. Number one will be, in part of your manifesto or your campaign, you said you're going to provide 25,000 megawatts of power. A lot of people will argue that your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, was in the government of Olusegun Obasanjo that in 16 years couldn't do anything on power. So what is it different now that you're going to do as regards 25,000 megawatts of power? And how is it going to be funded? That's a big question because that's a colossal deal if you look at the Siemens thing going on. And you see all this talk about traveling abroad. Can we just cut to the chase and ask, maybe you on behalf of your candidate, that would your candidate be nice enough, as well as other candidates, if they can take up this challenge, just to provide us a medical report or their medical records, as it is done in other climes in the world. I know it's not legal. You could give me all the legalese in the world, but this is public accountability. So let's even know what we're dealing with medically across board.
Okay, so let me start with the second and then I'll go back to the first. Medical record is personal. There is a rule of confidentiality between, if there is a patient, the patient and the doctor. And that is why even under medical law, the doctor cannot disclose your confidential record even to your family unless by your permission. There are exceptions, where you are no longer capable of, giving consent or authorization as to the revelation of your medical record. So because it is personal in law, I have to leave it personal to him. It is his decision to make at any given time. But much more than that, there are intelligence platforms in every country that assess the national security situation of every candidate. And that's why a few days ago I had to tweet that if the spokesman of APC does not know where his principal is and everybody asks, they say they didn't know where he was, then that is a national security threat. Because at every given time from when you emerge as a candidate of a political party, the security and intelligence platforms ought to know everything that is happening around you. And I know for a fact that intelligence organization, usually the kind of scrutiny or the kind of the kind of intelligent investigation they carry out sometimes even surpass what is being seen, by people. The answer is whether we have a commission that will enforce that. As long as it is not a law and it is personal, you can only persuade somebody to release it, but you cannot make it mandatory. If the Nigerian people now come together under a common debate arrangement where we have a polling system, recognizable polling system, not this 419 polling system, where they say this is what they demand, then moral burden will fall on the candidate to be able to release that. The only one we know, according to the Constitution, is that the only ground for which you become ineligible as a public officer is where there is incapacity of the body of the mind, and even that is to be assessed by a family medical doctor, one of which must be your personal physician. A lot of administrative bottleneck. You also ask a question regarding power. You say it's a big question. We also have a big answer. 5,000 megawatt is achievable. In fact, the ambition to generate 5,000 megawatt is not even ambitious. All you need to do is to look at the options that you have. So, for example, someone said we're generating, I think, 11 or 13,000 megawatt and we're distributing 7. If these power service providers are paid their money, those who supply the gas, and they all come together and invest in the provision for the supply of gas, the megawatt will increase. That is one. Number two, what we intend to do in our economic plan is to make sure we tinker with the Constitution so that we can also give permission, or not permission, so to speak, so that states can have the powers and authorization to also generate power by themselves in their arrangement with private sector. If you go by that route, you are going to generate more than 5,000 watt. And then you look at what is now the new emerging concept across the world, renewable energy, where you look at the solar power, you look at the wind, and you look at the West. And you cannot say these three concepts cannot be achieved in Nigeria, because as far as solar system is concerned, all you need to look is to look at the North. So we develop a broad-based approach to generating the power. If you say, okay, if you generate power with solar, how are you able to store it with battery? This is part of the things we go. In fact, that's why even our access to loans from this international body is being reduced, especially in critical area of infrastructure where you are going to affect the greenhouse gases. Now, the condition for giving you loan is if you believe in green energy. And so we have no option but to also begin to look at renewable energy. And this is achievable. Investors are here, they have their money, they need a climate. Our own party is desirous of providing a favorable climate that investors will happily choose to invest in Nigeria than to invest in the US. Rufai, if you have a stake in Apple right now, and you see the margin of profit you make per year, and then you see an investment opportunity in Nigeria where you are guaranteed return on investment way above Apple, you will channel back your investment into Nigeria. This is the simple logic. Look at infrastructure between Kaduna and Abuja. Now, we have been able to put a rail line and train along Kaduna and Abuja. But this government has failed to also look at the fact that when you talk about infrastructure, you must also look at security and surveillance. Because we do not have security and surveillance, right now train cannot move from Abuja to Kaduna. And if crisis continue, it's going to snowball in all parts of the country. So a broad-based approach is our agenda. We believe the achievement of 5,000 megawatt is possible if we look at increasing the capacity by ensuring we pay the gas suppliers, by ensuring we look into renewable energy, we do legislative reform that will permit investors to come and invest in solar, invest in wind, and invest in waste. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, we'll be able to generate more than just the 5,000 that we're talking about.
Bwala, we have just a few minutes to go. If you can make the responses a bit more precise, that will be helpful. Now, all right. Your candidate, we have seen him dancing. I think you guys who are managing the campaign, maybe you need to work a bit more on the dancing. You know, he needs to learn how to twerk and how to move a bit more, since dancing and bicycling, you know, have both become major issues in this campaign, but that's on the lighter side. If you could just speak briefly to the 5-point agenda that your candidate is talking about restructuring, about education, about security, about making Nigeria a better place, as briefly as possible, since you said this should be about issues.
Okay, so with respect to education, because you've already mentioned the fact, with respect to education, our approach will be to revamp the educational sector, to provoke a legislative reform that will cede certain parts of education to the state, so that what used to be before the federal government took over the management of regional universities, we will now go back to that arrangement where the federating unit will also have a dedicated consolidated fund with the federal government, with first line charge, where money go directly into that. And we look at areas of science and technology, we look at areas of medicine, we look at those areas that will boost our economy. We also believe, because fundamentally our policy is around private sector participation and free market economy. So we are going to encourage Nigerians and Nigerian investors to invest in private universities, beef it up with all the facilities needed. When we begin to generate revenue from the subsidy that we intend to put off, we are going to give scholarships to the Nigerian people, and universities in Nigeria will compete with the rest of the world. With respect to the security, our approach is to increase the number of soldiers, increasing the number of police. That is at the federal government level. But because we are proposing restructuring even in the area of state police, we are hoping that the federal government will provide a blueprint for the state to have multi-layer policing system. And we believe that with that, you'll be able to checkmate some of these vices in the local level. But beyond that, Atiku intends to, what they call, motivate those who work. There is a video circulating where Nigerian soldiers were in the bush, complaining that they are not given the needed motivation. Do you know, in the last 7 years, this federal government has spent about 7.something trillion in defense. And we have bought everything conceivable under the heavens, from Tokano to everything. But yet we are losing the war. Why? Because of leadership. So we intend to look at, if it is not working this way, which way will it work? And we believe that state police will help in that. In the area of uniting Nigeria, we believe that This restiveness you find in the southeast and some in the south-south is because some parts of the country, the demographics, they believe that they are not part of the government. They are not incorporated in governance and the affairs of government. The distribution of the wealth is not across board. Our party intends to ensure that we must develop a policy that will make every man in Nigeria believe he's a part of Nigeria. There are 3 other ones, but it seems you don't have time.
Thank you so much for your time as always, Mr. Daniel Bwala.